Hello, if you're watching, listening, however you are absorbing us today, I've got an amazing guest speaker, the lovely Aislings, who I will let introduce herself. But before we do get started, I want to tell you what we are going to be talking about today, which is going to be about health before wealth, which is so important. It's something I've been exploring on my own business journey in this moment of time. And who better to come and talk to you about this than Aislings. So, Aislings, do you want to introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Aisling Louise Owens Nash. I'm over here in Ireland. I met Dani a couple of years ago, and we really hit it off, and we like to bounce off each other quite a lot. What do I do? So, well, first and foremost, I am me. Then I am a mammy. Then I am a wife, and then I do all of these business things. But my big passion and mission in life is to inspire, educate, and empower more individuals and family units to make positive, lower tox living changes to their lives. And some people will be like, what the heck does that mean? Like, that just sounds like waffle, right? But all that really means is looking at our lives, looking at 7 key areas of our lives, and reviewing how we can reduce the toxicity in those areas of our lives, right? Because people can be toxic. We can be toxic to ourselves. It can come from other people, and it can come through chemicals in our home. It can come through the food that we're eating. It can come through the products that we're putting on our skin. It can come through our homes and how we have them set up, and this how we design the spaces that we spend our time in. So there's toxicity in every part of the world. We're never going to avoid them all. But my mission is to try to show people how you can take back control, make simple switches that fit for your lifestyle, that ultimately reduce the amount of toxins in your life, which benefits you in your health and the planet. So, it's a win-win all around.
It really is. And we've actually just been talking before we hit record. We ended up like we always do, don't we, Ashley? Every time we catch up, we get into conversation, and she has such a wealth of knowledge in this area, and it's amazing. Like every time we speak, you give me something. Like I've just wrote notes down for things that I need to get on my shopping list because it's going to be so much better for me. And that's why I wanted to come and talk about it. For me, it's about how you feel in the work that you do in business, and that feeling leads to so much, like your energy levels, your mindset, your body, and your health of your body, leading to how productive you can be and how you're spending your time, how you're going to react to situations, and then the work that you do. And actually, this is a story, something that happened for me yesterday. I woke up feeling not rubbish, but really low energy after an amazing weekend, which if I go out, if I leave the house, oh God, does it drain my energy? So
Yeah.
I woke up and I'm like, right, I have two choices. I rearranged some calls, which is why, no, it wasn't yesterday, was it? Or was it yesterday? Yes, it was. We were supposed to do this yesterday. So I took all the guilt away and I rearranged it with Ashlyn, which is amazing. She's just like, yes, no, and we arranged. But I had two choices. I could have just done that and slept about all day and done nothing, or I could have worked on my energy so that I could show up today and bring you this amazing podcast with such a great guest speaker. So I did that. I worked on the energy. I ate good, nutritional food. And it's interesting that we make excuses for why we can't when it comes to our health. So previous me would have woke up this morning thinking, oh, I've got this chicken meal that I'm doing tonight. It's actually a Slimming World recipe, but I change it for us because I don't do Slimming World. And we don't have any vegetables left because we need to go shopping. We don't have any chopped tomatoes. So previous me would have said, no, I can't make that. Let's have a takeaway instead, or let's just whack a pizza in
Mhm.
the fridge. Something that actually, instead, if I invested the time to go to the shop and buy those two things, which part of it, another excuse that comes up is, well, I can't afford that. Well, if there's money in the bank, I can't afford to go buy a tin of tomatoes and some vegetables. So off I went, did a walk this morning to the shop, got those two things, and I know now this evening I'm going to use the leftover, like what you call mouldy veg in the fridge, and I'm going to make a nutritious meal for tea. And it's one of my favourite meals, so I'm looking forward to it. But it is about the decisions that you make, and it impacts your health, and that impacts your wealth as a result of that. So I'll let Ashley talk about it in a bit more detail. But for me, it looks like if I don't look after my body, look after my mind, because they are two things that come together.
Mhm.
And then the impact of that has, if you don't look after my body actually first, it impacts my mind, which then impacts my business, so that impacts my wealth. And it's a massive connection, and I'm really excited to open up the discussion around this, because it's so important, and not enough people, women, business owners, are actually talking about it. So, in your experience, Ashlyn, what has been your link between health and wealth, and also any advice that you'd give around any of this?
Well, I guess, I mean, the first link between health and wealth for me was actually my personal experience that I went through, where I was in a very negative place in my life. Life was very stressful. Dani knows already, but most of you won't know. I am a mom of three, but there was a period in my life where one has had his diagnoses at the time and was just starting to get some support, and it was a bit stressful trying to get to all of these things that he needed to get to and get people to give him what he needed. And this is how my mind worked back then. Then I was being told that my second child had some issues and we'd need to watch that, and I didn't believe it and I was in denial. And then my daughter was physically in and out of hospital, and I had a GP who wasn't supporting me at the time. So I had three kids that had different things going on. I wasn't well. I wasn't being supported by my GP. I was asking for help. I wasn't getting for help. I was being dismissed. And I ended up having a panic attack while driving my car one day, and I crashed my car into three other cars. Well, into one other car, which then hit two other cars. I created that chain reaction. And that was the day that I went, well, a few days later, after I cried loads about it, I went, how did I let somebody else get so in my head? Because, I was about a 7-minute drive away from where that GP surgery was, but I passed the turn that led to where her surgery was, and I had my panic attack. And I hit the accelerator instead of the brakes by accident. And then because I was rigid in the panic, I couldn't remove my feet. And in my head, my conversation was going on. I was like, Ashing, your foot's on the accelerator, take it off the accelerator, get it on the brakes. But instead my feet were pushing harder. I was paralyzed. And I never, ever, ever wanted to feel like that again. And I thought, what can I do? I can't keep fighting with schools, health boards, educational support systems, GPs, blah, 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 for all three of my kids, and constantly say, but they're not giving me what my children need, or they're not giving my child this, or they're not giving me this. What could I do?
I love that you took responsibility in that moment, and I really feel that from you. You have goosebumps talking about it.
But that's why I say to people, this is about taking back control, making those simple switches that work for you so you can transform your life. Because the other thing, and the last piece of my tagline, or some of the taglines I use, because I kind of mix them up, but it is take back control, make simple switches, transform your life, and build a life that you truly love, and stop just existing. Because too many of us, and I was, just existing constantly, just existing, just going through the motions, because that's the way things are done. And that's how my nanny did this, or my mom did that, or my dad showed me to do this, whatever it was. You get into these routines of doing things, and it doesn't mean that it's the right routine for you or your family. My family was really struggling. Our psychologist, when I got to him, said, oh, you're living in crisis. And I'm like, I'm not living in crisis. This is fine. This is just my life. And this is what I do for this. And I have to do this to do that. And I have to do this to do that. And he was like, this is not normal. This is not normal. This is not how life is supposed to be. But that was my normal. And when you're living in it, it's very hard to see it. So it does come, I think the first thing it comes down to is becoming aware and taking back that control and going, okay, and this is what I do in my course with people. It's not even a course, it's more of like a guided journey that I take people on through 6 weeks now. And we start and we go, okay, here's some things that we're going to do every day. And we're all going to do these things every day. We're going to fill out this piece of paper in the morning, we're going to fill out this paper in the evening, and we're going to review our lives and look at different things. And then we take different areas and we go, well, actually, how's my relationship with myself? How am I speaking to myself? What things am I saying to myself that I need to stop? What, of these things that I'm saying, where have they come from? Who said them to me? Who's put that in my head? And then preparing yourself and protecting yourself when you need to spend time with those people. So for me, I used hypnobirthing techniques for my second two children to give birth. And a really clever system that we learned when I was learning about hypnobirthing was creating this bubble. Now I
Oh, I
actually
love
imagine
that.
it as a pyramid, because the pyramid is even stronger than the bubble. But, I'm like, right, okay, I'm surrounded by this invisible barrier, and these things might be said to me, but they're just going to hit off that barrier. I'm going to hear the things that are said. I'm going to respond to the things that I'm hearing, but I'm not going to do it in a aggressive or reactive way. I'm going to go, I don't agree with what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying, but I'm choosing not to react, and I'm not going to continue this conversation. I don't want to have this conversation because it's going to lead you somewhere that is not good for you, and it's not good for them either. But they might not be ready to change. Just because you're ready to change doesn't mean other people are, and you have to get those systems in place to protect yourself as well. So it started with having that accident and going, what can I take back control of? And then researching and learning and educating myself on lots of different areas. So my mindset, um, what we were looking at on TV, what books we had in the house. We got rid of our TV channels. We just stuck to Disney and Netflix. We started to listen to audiobooks using Alexa in our kitchen every day while we were playing or cooking and things like that, and in the car. We I started to slowly reduce the amount of chemicals that I was using in the house, but that was probably the longest journey of all of the things. But the big thing was I changed our food.
Yeah.
And it was because I was at a talk on autism with a social worker, and she was talking about current studies that had been happening at the time. Now, this is going back maybe 5 years ago now, six maybe. 5 years ago, I think I was at this talk, and she was like, well, and there's this study being done, and there's this supplement that they tested with autistic children and adults, and these are the results that they've seen, and it's going to be the new cure. And I was like, you can't cure neurology, right? You can create you can create new neural pathways through neuroplasticity and retraining your brain. But your brain is still going to be wired differently if you have a diagnosis like that. It's neurological, right? But what you can do, and what I have seen and what I did research through the food and nutrition, was that you can reduce the symptoms associated. So autism is connected, and I have to go here, sorry, to this gene called IL-17A, because it will give context to everything else. And I started to look at IL-17A. It's called interleukin-17A. It's a gut gene. It has associations with autism. It's either overfunctioning or underfunctioning in all of which triggers each of these diagnoses that I'm going to mention. And we can fix it through consuming more. Well, we can't fix it. We can improve it through consuming more soluble dietary fibers. So ASD, chronic asthma, rosacea, psoriasis, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, IBS, IBD, and did I say ankylosing spondylitis? Loads of these autoimmune diseases that are actually triggered by the inflammation being caused by that gut gene not working properly. So when we just start consuming more of this soluble dietary fiber, which comes from chicory root syrup, onions, garlic, artichoke, asparagus, these really gorgeous green foods, that can help to balance all of that in our gut and reduce the inflammation. When we reduce the inflammation in our gut, there's less inflammation in our brain.
Yeah.
So we've improved cognitive function. So we see less of and I'm going to do the inverted commas, behaviors that are associated with certain things. For me, I was that screechy, cranky, angry mammy by the time I hit 2 o'clock every day. I just couldn't function. I'd be great in the mornings. I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd be like, angry
So
mammy.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, because our gut, everything is connected. So our mind, our body, and our skin, and our home, and our environment, and the people that we spend time with, our communities, all affect all of these things. How well we breathe, something as simple as breathing. The way that we breathe affects our gut health and our mind health. So if we're just shallow breathing all the time, we're not getting the great levels of oxygen that we could be getting to our brain and our blood, but also we breathe in bacteria and things into our microbiome that get into our gut to help, right? So if you're out in the countryside, take a nice deep, deep, deep lungfuls of air. You're taking all these other things into your body that your body can then play around and go, yeah, no, don't want that bit, or yeah, that's actually good. We haven't had that in our system for a while. Let's use that for this thing. You know, it's fascinating. Our bodies are absolutely fascinating,
Yeah.
and they're built to be in balance. They want to be, our body wants to be in balance. But more importantly, our bacteria wants to be in balance because we are 90% bacteria and 10% human.
10% human. I love that.
It is true. We are
Yeah.
90% bacteria.
Science
Our
has a
entire
lot. All
body
science.
is,
Yeah.
hmm?
Science has a lot to answer for it. It is just science, the science of the body and the mind, because it all comes together
Mm.
about biology and all of it. What's the other side? Probably all the three sciences, actually, to be fair, combined. And it's true. Like the more you look into it, and what did I say? I said you had a wealth of knowledge in this, and
Sorry,
you
I probably
really,
started
really do.
waffling a bit. But
That's
it can
passion.
be really fascinating because, it's like when we say to somebody, so what's a food that absolutely makes you want to gag?
Right. Oh, can't do it.
Rice.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Rice. So you just went, "Bleh."
Yeah.
I asked you to think about something that makes you gag. And you went, "Bleh." Our mind does that.
Yeah.
What's something that makes your mouth water?
Chocolate.
So you think about chocolate and your mouth is probably starting to water. You're probably imagining the flavor. You can probably nearly taste
On
that
your
favorite.
tongue. Mm.
You can taste that favorite chocolate. That is how powerful our mind is. For most people, the example that you would ask somebody to do is to imagine, close your eyes and imagine you've got a lemon in your hand. It's beautiful, organic, fresh lemon. You hold it up to your nose. You can smell, oh, smell the zest, smell the juice. Take a bite of it. Most people are going to go, and get that water in their mouth in the negative way and go, oh God, no, couldn't do that because
Yeah.
it's so bitter and sour. But that is how powerful our brains are and how our mind works. It physically affects how our body functions, physically
It does.
affects it. So when we are stressed, our cortisol levels increase. What does cortisol like to do? It likes to destroy lots of our bacteria and our gut. So that's why when people are stressed, they'll quite probably have a tense tummy.
Yeah,
Your
it's when the
tummy feels,
belly aches come in. Because like the
yeah,
anxiety is linked to the gut, isn't it? And I get this.
yes,
If I'm nervous for something, it makes me feel like I need the toilet when actually my body doesn't need to
yeah.
go to the toilet, but I'm just in my gut, I'm feeling that. And it's so strong in me. And the more you kind of understand it, the more you can work with it.
Yeah.
And like you said, protect yourself from that toxic
But
side of it.
actually, if you bring the bacteria in your gut back into balance, you will see there will be a massive reduction in the amount of anxiety that you feel
Yeah, yeah.
as
It's
well.
because food, there is a link. I once learnt about the frequency of food, and it was really, really interesting. And this is how it does protect your health as well, both mentally and physically, and the way your body reacts. And like one thing that a lot of people come across is like the energy scale, where obviously it's like a spiral. So if you start, if something negative happens, you choose how you react, and you're either gonna go up the spiral and you're gonna like your energy is going to go higher and you're going to feel good, or you're going to go down it. And it's the same with food. Like the food we take in takes us up and down that spiral because
It
the
does.
frequency of the food. And when I learned this, my mind was blown. I'm like, oh my God. And it's because of the scientific fact that everything is energy. So we want to feed ourselves that good
We're
energy.
actually we're actually not even feeding ourselves when we eat. We're actually feeding our bacteria.
Yeah.
And we need to feed our bacteria the right thing so they can do the right thing. So as I was going back to this cortisol. So cortisol, it kind of destroys a lot of the good bacteria in our gut because we're so stressed. But also it eats our collagen. So it destroys collagen. So we end up looking more stressed. You can see
Yeah.
physically in people's faces when they're stressed, right? I bet you've
People say
seen
it,
people
don't
and
they, as
gone,
well?
oh my
You
God, you
look
look so
tired.
stressed.
Yeah, you look tired. You okay? You don't look, and it's because of that, isn't it?
Yeah, because it physically affects that. But we can do things like we can consume more prebiotic foods, probiotic foods, adaptogenic foods. So to explain, Prebiotic foods are the likes of fermented foods, so kimchi, sauerkraut,
I love
um,
sauerkraut.
kombucha, kefir. These things are prebiotic, and so is soluble dietary fiber. Soluble dietary fiber, which I mentioned earlier on, it's the prebiotics in those veg. And what that does is that helps then when you take a probiotic, it helps to keep the probiotic in a good state till it gets to the small intestine, large intestine. I have to go back and check my books. And it keeps it alive long enough to get it there so then it can feed the bacteria. So it's like the prebiotics are like the fertilizer for the probiotics, which are like the vitamins in the food for the gut bacteria. Then the gut bacteria eat it all up, chew it back out, spit it back out, and it becomes a postbiotic. What is a postbiotic used for? To create hormones. So I used to call them, what I did was after that accident, I was told I had postnatal depression due to antenatal anxiety, and there's loads of reasons why that happened, and I won't go into them because some of it's private for another family member. But there were a lot of things that I was dealing with at the time, and I was obviously very stressed. I just had a new baby. She was in and out of hospital. I had the stuff going on with the boys. I was trying to do the paperwork. I was trying to take leave from work. It was chaotic, right? It was stressful. I was stressed, really stressed. And at one point, we were in hospital with Alyssa, and the doctors came to me and they said, "Well, we can't really find anything in her bloods. However, her amino acids are very, very low, like extremely low. And are you vegan?" And I was like,
Ah,
"No, I'm not vegan," because obviously she was exclusively breastfed at that time because she was so young. She was only like 10 or 11 weeks old at the time. And I was like, "No, I'm not vegan." And I'm really fussy about my meat. So my mom and I would go to the wholesalers. We would choose the beef that we want. I would mince it at home myself, or my mom would mince it for me. I mince my own mince to this day,
yeah.
because I like to know that it's good, lean meat. I was very fussy about the meat that I ate. I ate very good quality meat. But just because I was having one good quality meal a day, my dinner, didn't mean that I was treating my body right the rest of the time. Plus, I was stressed. So
Mm,
actually, what was happening was I wasn't absorbing the nutrients that I needed to absorb
from that meat. Yeah,
from any of the food that
yeah,
I was eating because I was loading myself up with Diet Coke and espresso the rest of the time. That's what kept me
yeah.
going. And it's because I woke up in the mornings and I always had to be in on the side of the bed closest to the bathroom because I would have to get sick every morning when I stood up because I would try to sit up in the bed and I would get whoosh, like the big shells on your ears when you're a kid,
Oh,
you go to the beach. That's the noise I
yeah.
would get, and I would have to run to the bathroom to be ill. Now, there was nothing in me to be ill with, so unfortunately, I would get to bile quite quickly. Sorry to anybody squeamish. Um, but it
I
wasn't
might have
nice.
to
And
put
then
a
because I
disclaimer like,
felt,
don't listen
huh?
while eating.
But then because felt so sick and I would still have that awful taste in my mouth, I would just go down and drink a coffee. I wouldn't eat food. I didn't eat a
Yeah.
breakfast.
So you're
And
actually
then
not
I
replacing anything your body needs,
no, I
which I
wasn't giving
think
myself anything I needed.
so many of us are so guilty of. We know what our body needs. I'm sat with water in front of me right now because I know I don't drink enough water. So if it's in my office, it's in front. If I'm thirsty, I can go for the water. And we don't feed ourselves what our body needs. And we are so guilty because we are aware, and not maybe not to the extent of that your knowledge, but we can go learn. We can go, Ashland's got many ways you can go learn. But we don't feed ourselves or give ourselves what these what our body needs, what physically, mentally,
Mhm.
all of it.
Yeah, so I started eating, I started to call them my happy foods. So I was put on
Yeah.
medication for postnatal depression and I thought, don't really want to be on medication, but I know I needed it. I knew I needed it. And I'm not against medication. So I took the medication, but I did change GP and I did say, I don't want to stay on this. I need a plan to get away from this. I want to look after myself in another way. I want to control this. I didn't want to be out of control. I think losing control of my car made me realize I need to be in control of more things, right? And this
Yeah.
was one of the things where I was like, well, I can control this. So I researched and I thought, well, what does the medication do? It boosts my serotonin levels. What is serotonin? It is your happy hormone. If I started to eat things like more salads, beetroot, walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds, I started to eat avocado. I'd never ate avocado before because I always thought it was this slimy, disgusting thing. Now I love it. I still don't have it that very often because it's not the greatest carbon footprint, but it's very nice at times. It's nice for a treat. It's a great healthy fat to have in your life. Um, and I just started to explore, well, actually, what food can I eat to help me? Now, at that time, I was still drinking the Diet Coke and I was still drinking the coffee. I hadn't quite gotten to that point, but I had started to reduce the amount of sugar. Now, Dani, I was drinking 4 to 6 Nespresso a day, and I was having
Wow.
I was having 2 spoons of sugar in each one. Think about that.
And it's quite common, isn't it? Like, I only have one coffee a day now because of my health, actually. But my husband drinks it all day, and actually, he's having to change his diet now because he's just found out, actually, yesterday that he's got type 2 diabetes. So we're going to have to work on our diet as a whole, as a family, to impact him. And if we do it together, the better. Like, I want to work on it anyway because I'm,
Look,
you
it's quite
know,
simple. It's quite simple, guys. Just take it back to whole foods. If it's
yeah,
grown in the ground or it's grown on a tree, if it's swam in the sea or a river or a lake, if it's flown in the sky and it hasn't been processed, that's whole food.
yeah, that's what we
And if
need
we
to live
just
by.
focus on removing anything that's packaged or crunched up and put back into a form, is not whole
Mhm.
food.
Yeah. So with your toxicity, I can't even say it right now. Toxicity, is that right? Journey.
Lower tox
What,
living journey, yeah.
yeah, that's it. Low toxic is so much easier to say. What would be your biggest takeaway and your, I guess, your biggest bit of advice that you'd recommend to others that want to lower the tox in their life and
I,
go
I
into it with feeling good in their mind and body?
Yeah, so what I start with people is with just for the first week or two, I give them this video that kind of gives a little overview of, well, look, here are some of the areas that you might be experiencing toxicity. Here are some tips and some things that you can look at over the next couple of weeks. And we start with a diary. So everybody gets a workbook with certain things to look at about when they wake up in the morning and before they go to bed. So we start to track and we start to bring awareness to certain things. Then depending on the group of people, because I'm quite fluid, I don't want to dictate to people exactly. I say to people, look, I have this roadmap and I know all the different journeys that will get you to that one destination that we're all heading towards anyway. But it's up to you to decide which lane is going to work best for you. So I'm going to show you all the different routes. I'm going to show you all the different lanes. And by the end of that 6-7 week period, you're going to go, you will know this is the lane I want to travel in. I want to start with I want to continue working on my mindset for my health, or I want to continue working on or focus on working on my diet, or I want to look at the products that I'm using in my skin or in my home, or I need to look more closely at the people that I spend my time with, so my community. So it's about giving people the tools to make those decisions for themselves. I don't want to dictate to anybody
I love
what they
this.
should or shouldn't do. I just want to guide you and say, here are the things that you can look at. Here is how you can find out the, what's the word? Independent information, independent sources where you can sense check for yourself what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. And I'll help you. I'll help you with that. And I show them the way. But my biggest thing, I think, for people is to just not be afraid of it. It doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, when I started investing in nutrition, which was further down my journey, to really heal my body and to reset my body, it's having that reset for your body is so important to release those physical toxins from our body through eating well and boosting ourselves with nutrition, that my mind became a lot clearer. I began to see more opportunities in my life. I was happier in myself. I was more motivated in myself. So everything is connected. I can't say, Dani, you should start with your mindset, or Dani, you should start with your diet. It has to be something that fits for you first, but I can show you those 7 areas and you'll go, you'll feel drawn. You will feel drawn to one before the others. But ultimately, I know that everybody that does this journey with me, all those other areas, all those other lanes that they haven't decided to take are there, and they know they're there, and they will come back and they will take those lanes
Yeah.
because it is a journey. It is something that people go on. So don't be afraid of it. Don't think, oh my God, it's going to cost me so much money. In fact, I saved so much money. I have more disposable income than I used to, which sounds insane, right? It doesn't you look at it from the outside and go, that couldn't be possible because you're spending more money on this type of food, or you're spending more money on that type of food, or you're buying this nutrition or whatever it is. But actually, you're spending a lot less in other ways because you might be buying
Yeah.
less alcohol, less treats, there's less junk going into your baskets. You might have less takeaways because you're enjoying cooking more, because I
Oh,
think a lot of
that's a
it comes
massive,
back to,
yeah,
yeah,
it's massive favorite. I'm like, for a family takeaway now, we're nearing on 40 quid for one
yeah.
meal. Whereas that 40
You could
quid
you could
covers
do
the fruit
5 meals for
and
that,
veg.
6 meals
Like,
for that even.
yeah, can you imagine the fruit and veg or the whole foods we could buy with that £40?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes such a
But
difference. Just
it's
have to be
it's
willing to make that
it's
change.
finding joy in food and finding joy in cooking as well, that I try to help people with by giving them recipe books and going, look, here's a recipe book with some meal plans. Pick what you think you would really enjoy. Talk to your kids about it. I think it's really important that we sit down with our
Yeah,
children when we do these things and say, guys, have a look through this. Which one of these do you think you'd like? And when they're involved, you'll be surprised. I have people say to me, oh, my children would never eat this, my children would never eat that. My kids were like that. I have two children who are on opposite ends of the sensory spectrum. You know, one comes to me and is like, can I have a glass of greens? We didn't have
yeah.
that. We didn't have enough vegetables and fruit today, Mommy. I think I should have a glass of greens. And he drinks
Bless
glasses of
them.
greens. You know, the other guy, he takes a supplement that we use for cognition for our brain. So all the vitamins for our brain, because he has ADHD. But through changing our diet and changing our habits, he's no longer on his medication. Instead, he drinks a vitamin filled drink every day.
Yeah, it's so
And now we no
interesting.
longer, we don't have to go to a doctor. We don't have to go every 6 to 8 weeks to the clinic to have his heart rate checked because he's on this medication, which is methamphetamine, right? Think about this. Like, if your kids went out to a nightclub and bought methamphetamine,
I
you'd
know.
you'd be freaked out. But yet we're pushed to give it to our ADHD children,
I go get it
right?
over
And we're
the
like,
farm. So,
okay, you might be getting it out of the pharmacy, but it's still methamphetamine,
yeah,
right?
still the same.
So
Yeah,
So it's like, oh my God, I'm giving my child like
shocking, isn't it?
seriously hardcore drugs, right?
Yeah,
So I had always said to our team, I don't really want him on these drugs, but unfortunately, the way the system often works is they back you into a corner. They don't give you anything unless you do what they want, and they want you medicated. They want your child medicated because that's how
it's
they
just
make
there's money
money.
in pharmaceuticals. That's why.
That's how they make money. Now, I've
Yeah,
been very lucky. We moved house, we moved teams. And when we went back to them last year, and I said, look, we've been off for the summer. This is how he's doing. He's sleeping better. He doesn't need the melatonin anymore to sleep because he's actually sleeping better. And he's not using the methamphetamine to get him through the day. He's eating better because his appetite is not suppressed, because he's eating the right foods and more food now. He's starting to grow. He's not as anxious. He's feeling happier in himself. This is the knock-on effect it can have. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't just diet and adding in some nutrition. He's listened to Atomic Habits, he's listened to The Miracle Morning, he's listened to Super Attractor. You know,
that's
you've
amazing.
got to look after all the areas of yourself. You can't
Yeah,
just change one and expect everything to change. You can just change one, and some things will absolutely improve. But if you want that whole
you need
self,
to look at the big picture,
you
don't
know,
you, with it?
it is a
Absolutely.
holistic thing, right? All of life is.
Yeah,
Your business, you should look at your business holistically. So, what are all the
yeah,
strands of your business? How can I nurture each strand equally? Think about a three-legged stool. You've got the seat, and you've got the three legs. Each of those legs can represent something in your business, or I'm going to say it from the health point of view, your mind, your body, and your skin. Let's
yeah.
say that's in a room and you're heading into that room and you're hoovering away, but you don't lift up that stool. You're just whacking off it with the hoover or the sweeping brush. You're mopping the floor, you're throwing a load of, I don't know, Zaflora or bleach or something on it, and you go, feck it, sure, I'll just use that cloth and I'll give it a wipe down with that, like, to clean it. That's going to start to weaken the integrity of that stool. And
Yeah.
when you sit down, you then need that stool. You're like, oh, I need to be supported now. And you go to sit on that stool. If even one of those legs is weakened, it's going to snap and break, and you're going to end up on the floor with a lot of pain, right?
So true. I love a metaphor as well.
Where if you look after that, if you know, go in to clean that room, you lift the stool up out of the way, clean below it, you use some beeswax on the wood or something instead, something natural, and you nurture it and you look after it and you appreciate it, it's going to take your weight every time. It's going to
Yeah.
support you every time. That is your body. Your body wants to be looked after. You know, I wouldn't be doing the businesses that I'm doing. I now have 4 businesses, and I do them in less than 20 hours a week because I'm very strict. And this is where
Mm.
I know business organization comes in. And I
Protecting
would
yourself
not be
with
able to
all of
do
it.
that if I
Yeah.
didn't have the clarity of mind that I now have, that I never had before, where I could not. In my career before, did really well in my career. I was quite accomplished and won a lot of awards consistently. But I would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and send myself emails
Oh
because
wow.
I didn't switch off and I didn't sleep. I didn't have a
Yeah.
good night's sleep. And then I'd wake up and be sick, and then I would start that vicious cycle of sugar and caffeine all day long,
Mm.
have
To just
processed foods for lunch.
start and get on that hamster wheel, as people say, and that's it. You're in that cycle, but we need to break the
Absolutely.
cycle now
And
and start
I do describe it to people as I was 100% living on a roller coaster. I was living on a roller coaster. And the
because
other way
there's
roller
no,
coasters
you
speed
go
up
up, you go
and they
down.
slow
Yeah.
down, but also they speed up, they slow down. You might be upside down and it's holding you upside down for a while, and then it goes whoosh, and it,
Yeah.
but I was stuck on the roller coaster. When you get onto that roller coaster, what happens? Somebody comes along and they pull down that bar and they lock you in. They lock you in to keep you safe. But when that roller coaster is not stopping, you can't unlock that and you can't get off. So you're not safe anymore. Your body's going through all this. Your mind is going through ups, downs, around in a circle. I physically crashed my car. That's how I got off the roller coaster. I don't want other people to end up crashing to get off the roller coaster. I want to help you to get to the stop, unlock
Yes.
that barrier and let you out. That's what I want to do. That is my mission. I don't want to see people crashing and burning and then making a change. Yes, of course, if that happens, we can still help you make a change. But take back control of that roller coaster. Slow it down. Take control. There are times for the highs and lows. There are times to jump on that wheel and do those spins and have that adrenaline. But the rest of the time, we need to be in control. We need to take back that control and we need to look after ourselves because we become more efficient in every way in our lives. We become more conscious of what we're spending our money on, where we're giving our time, how we value our time, because time is the most important. Huh?
It's so true. Like, this is the whole thing that people need to know, understand, and action in their lives. And that is the connection between health and your wealth.
Well,
We are running out of time. So just a final thought. One thing that I have to ask every guest that comes on is, what is your top tip for being organized within your business?
I utilize boards. So I know some people love Trello, and I
Yeah.
know Trello has boards within it, but I actually love boards. And I think understanding, so for me, it's physical, mental, and environmental are kind of my 3 pillars, my 3 legs, say. But within those 3 legs, I have 7 areas that we touch on because obviously within the mind, there's how you look at yourself and how you deal with others. Within the body, there's the physical aspect of your body, and then there's the gut health aspect of your body, and the skin. It's what's going on
All of
inside, what's
this
going
that
on the
you use,
outside.
do you
Hmm?
use boards like for all of this then to kind of manage and organize?
I
Because
use
obviously there's life
boards
and
for
business and
everything. So I have a different board for each business and I've different things set up. So I'm like, right, here's my body folder, my mind folder, my skin folder, my home folder,
love
my
that.
environment folder. And when I get ideas and I think of things, I put them in those folders. So then when I need to talk about something, I want to talk about something, I can. And also Canva. I mean, you
Can't go
can't
wrong with Canva.
go wrong with Canva. So, you know, from my boards, I'm able to go, right, well, what tips do I have? What da 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 da. So I talk
Yeah.
about the benefits, I share tips, I ask questions, and I tell you how to find me. And that's how I try to stay organized in my business. And now, and I tell people in my mid world this all the time, and I'll say it here as well, I'm not hiding it. I repeat, I repeat the same things
I do.
over and over again. I didn't used to do that because I thought, oh, people know that it's not the same thing, and I'll have to think of something new all the time. But
Yeah.
our message is not changing. Now,
No.
maybe
Or
you
it
can
might.
tweak a
You can
sentence or
adjust it a
two.
little bit, but yeah.
Exactly. But
So
if,
definitely
you
check
know,
out.
I've got 10 key benefits for you here, but I can ask you 10 different questions when I share those benefits with you. Or I could probably ask
Uh,
3 different questions for every benefit. That's 30 questions I can ask connected to those benefits.
oh,
So don't overwhelm
yeah,
yourself. Keep it simple, have it
yeah.
organized. And for me, my way of organizing is boards. For other people, it'll be Trello. For other people, they'll have their own, like there's so many systems out there that you can use, but you've
So
got to
find the one
find
for
the
you.
one that works for you. So you
Yeah,
love Trello, don't you?
I love Trello. Yes,
Yeah. Where
absolutely love it.
I just could not get my head around Trello. I
And
was
loads
like,
of people do feel like that. And I have used boards in the past, and it is really cool. And
yeah.
finally, last question, where can we go find you if we want to learn more, we want to implement these simple swaps, we want to make change, what do we need to do to come and learn more from you?
So you can come and find me on social media as Aisling Louise Owens Nash or Aisling Owens Nash on LinkedIn. Everywhere else, I'm Aisling Louise Owens Nash. My Facebook community is called the Love Life Community, a lower tox living community. Um, you can come and find me on my blog. I'll send Dani the link for that because it's a very long link. But I've lots of blogs, short blogs written because, you know, as a busy parent myself, I don't want long emails. I don't
Mm,
want long blogs. I want something that I can read and digest and take action on quickly. So that's what I'm passionate about, keeping it simple.
well,
It's very easy to get caught up and get excited about everything that you know, like I did today, and like say too much stuff. But keeping it
I do it all
simple,
the time, don't worry.
yeah. But keeping it simple for people to digest as well, and that's what I've been doing for you guys. So you can come and join my mailing list. It's not like very active, not gonna lie, but I will let you know now and then. There's a new blog post. You know, I do
Yeah,
put a new blog out every week, but I don't send emails every single week. But I do send them a couple of times a month. So you're not overwhelmed because I think it's very easy for people these days to be overwhelmed. There's so much going on social media, so many emails coming into our email box. So I don't want to add to that. I want to become a supportive, you know, I want you to see my name and go, oh, I'm going to learn something really easy today.
yeah. So check
And
out the
that's
show notes, guys, or if you're watching from YouTube, the description, and you can find everywhere that you can go access all this wealth of knowledge from Aisling to help you with your health and lead to the ultimate balance and low tox lifestyle. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an amazing talk, so much insight, and I hope that anyone who's listening is going to go away and impact some changes. And if you do, drop a comment and let us know, how you found the episode.
Let me
We
know.
love feedback.
Thanks for having
Um,
me. We got carried away.
I love it though. I love it. It's such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much.